I was just asking you whether your father ever told you about the reason why they overthrew Nkrumah in relation to Kotoka.
Nkrumah's overthrowing is a public record. You know, Nkrumah came out with the CPP, defected from the UDCC and then from the CPP. His people never liked him. You know, Nkrumah was so charismatic. And so therefore, it's just this old saying, if it is not us, then it shouldn't be anybody. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, the UGC said, if it is not them, then it shouldn't be anybody. So
how do you mean, if it's not them, there shouldn't be anybody? But we also know that Kotoka helped the overthrow of Nkrumah, and it's been said on this show on several occasions.
Yeah, I would like to correct that.
Okay.
From the philosophical point of view, and I will always stress on this, no military man can just own up a stadium and succeed without any politician behind it. It is public record that CIA had something to do with it. But definitely, the politicians have something also to do with it. And then sometimes what saddens me is that whenever the politicians are given the opportunity to talk about the history about this country, they demonize the military. Because, you know, most of it doesn't fit their narrative. So they'll end up saying that, the military never did anything well for this country. But don't forget that they are the ones that gives them the money to do the thing. They are the ones that bribes them to do the thing. You see. So my goal is that if they want to tell us the history of this country, they should just tell us everything. We need it. We need it. And the next generation needs the truth. You know, after 100 years, when they are dead and gone, the history still needs to be on paper so that we can all read and know what exactly happened so that we don't repeat the same mistakes again. Yes, Kotoka staged the coup, but he was instigated to do it. And I believe politicians were behind it.
Okay, all right. Now, your father was very close with the late Kotoka.
He worked with him. I wouldn't say very close. He worked with him. My father joined the military, and he was a...
Boachijan led that whole process. Is that true?
It is public record that Boachijan had his own team of people and were planning to kind of do a kind of coup, and then that were waiting until they all become commanding officers, you know, but then they were all junior officers, but they were waiting until they all becomes commanding officers. That is maybe 10 years after your graduation. Then it will be easy to take over. That is what I'm saying, that it's not easy to make a coup as a military man, because you have to make sure that you have the support. And even after you have succeeded, the international committee will be on you. So you need the politicians to speak on your behalf. That's what I'm saying, that before a soldier man will stage a coup, then there are some politicians also involved. But the politicians will not talk about that because it doesn't fit into their narrative. You understand?
Which political party do you think was or were behind that 15th May attempt then?
That one, I'll keep my mouth shut until maybe another meeting.
This is the hour show, by the way, you know. We say it all here. But, all right. Now, Rawlings, you said, wasn't known. What geared all the military people behind him there?
I respect that man. I'm prepared to even take a bullet for him. Why? I remembered, let the blood flow. No, I remembered, let my people go, for I am responsible. I remember that vivid statement that he made. Look, let us put it in this context.
Okay.
Rawlings was a gladiator in the arena. His life was in his hands. But you know what he did?
Mm-hmm.
He was able to read the psychic of the whole population of Ghana, proud to also the military, and then spoke. He wasn't looking at himself. He said, let my people go, trusting that that word will be able to confuse the masses. And he did it. And you see, there is only some few people in this world that could, even in the face of death, they could still reason and speak to influence the mass. I respect Rawlings for that. He's a gladiator. You know? He's a gladiator.
Why do you refer to him as a gladiator? I mean, clearly, he attempted a coup that was against the Constitution at the time, and still is against the Constitution. And you still commend him for such act?
You see, the history of Ghana is the history of Ghana. He's not the first to do coup in Ghana. There have been several coups, certain coups that were fueled. You understand? Mm-hmm. I believe in that dispensation, mm-hmm. that was what was happening. You know? So it fell on him. Don't forget, Wachija and Co were also planning to do something. But they were waiting for the appointed time to do it. He came out, June 15th, he didn't waste time, he came out, and then he just did it. You know? Yeah, so it is what it is. That's what we always say here.
I mean, but clearly, according to, even with your father being involved in the Achampo regime, as you clearly stated, there was a transition that you clearly wouldn't even notice when it came to Akufu and Achampo. It wasn't messy, it wasn't bloody. But come to Rawlings, it was quite something. What exactly happened on June 4th?
You see, in June 4th, it would have been something smooth. But the resistance was, the Reki regiment itself was divided into two. Some were protecting, some were for Odate Walente, and then some were also for Chairman Rawlings. So even there alone, you could say there's resistance. You understand? So therefore, there's going to be some gunshot. In proud to Achampo's case, it was just a house arrest. They visited him at home and said, Master, it's time to just step down. You know, but in Rawlings' time, it was like they wanted to make an example of him. The system wanted to make an example of him. That's why they took him to court. To shame him, make him make him become like a deterrent. So anybody else who wants to involve himself into a coup d'etat will also be shamed and then executed. But you see, let's ask ourselves this question. There's very people who wanted to execute you. You ended up and got out of it.
Right.
Are you going to, those same people, are you going to just hand them a pie and say, okay, go home, bye-bye, God bless you? No. Survivors of the fittest.
Which side was your father at the time?
Oh, as I've always said, my father was working with administration. He was at Ministry of Defense. Yeah, I think he was the chief clerk. He was working for the MS, you know. And then it was, after we were all in the revolution. We were all into it. We were the badass boys. Our parents were in for it, you know. You don't want to get rid of it. You don't want to be part of the revolution. You'll be executed. You'll be killed. I mean, you'll get lost. You know what I'm saying? Or you'll be fired. Or you'll be asked to resign. Yeah, so, yeah, it was the order of the day.
But he was very close to Achampo. And Achampo was executed, wasn't
he? You see, it gets to a point in our lives that when an onus is on you to steer a nation to a certain direction, you have to take certain bold decisions, irrespective of relation. And I believe the chairman himself, he had no other choice. Pressure was on him. I was listening to his interview recently, and he said the situation was so fluid. The situation was so fluid. And maybe if he didn't even take his time, he himself might also be killed by his own people. So sometimes you have to just listen, just to appease the voice. Yeah. So that is it.
Was it indeed true that there was a call for let the blood to flow? I mean, at the time.
It was a public record. I mean, we could hear people from the University of Legon. I mean, the press, etc., etc. It was a headline, you know. It was a headline. That's part of the whole thing. Just because he said, let my people go. That's what I'm saying. The gentleman is a gladiator. You know, he was in the arena. He was fighting for his life. But again, he wanted to amuse the crowd. You understand? And that was his ticket out. I believe he didn't make that. I believe that if he didn't come out with that statement, let my people go, would have been executed the following morning around 4 a.m. Nobody would have even known about him. So I respect him for that. In the face of death, he made the right call. Right.
He was given a trial, however you call it. He was given a chance to speak.
Yes.
The generals that were executed, what he referred to as a cleanup exercise. In all fairness, did you think it was appropriate?
Today we will sit in the luxury of peace. You know, today we'll sit in our homes with air conditioning, in our armchairs, and then we'll look into the past. And the only thing we can see is just error. But they did what they had to do. You know, at that time, they wanted to set certain examples. You know, some of them were in the military uniform, but they were still also politicians. We didn't have no. You know, they were in bed with the politicians, still in the army. You know, when it comes to making a decision, you know, they always do it in favor of the politicians, but they were still in the uniform. Anyway, as I'm saying, I'm a soldier, but I'm not in the military, so yeah, oh yes. Yeah.
On the given day when they were executed, where were you and how was the country like? Was it quiet? Was it like something that actually happened to Ghana?
It was very quiet. It was very quiet, you know. But what surprised me that most people trooped to Teshie Range to witness it. It tells you about the psychic of the nation as at that time. In the barracks, it was very quiet. But the question is that thousands of people went to Teshie Range to witness the execution. That should also tell you the psychic of the nation as at that time. You know, yeah.
Were you guys in hardship at the time?
Look, in terms of finances or what, hardship or something?
Well, I believe that is what propelled that day to come into effect in the first place.
Let me be honest with you. The only benefit we got from the military or whatever was that we had a very good school. My father is a type that will not dip his hands into the national pocket. He had integrity. I can always testify for my father. I will take a bullet for my father. There was one time, my father, he was in charge of recruitment. He was working at PA. And then my sister went to join the nursing corps. My father was part of the selection board. When it was time for my sister to be interviewed, my father just woke up and left. So all the guys on the board said, "Oh, Cynthia, you get this job, you get this job." As at 6 p.m., my father dropped my sister. My father made her to fail because my father would never condone nepotism. You understand? There was one time an uncle of mine called Kanichi, who was a VRA boss at VRA. My mother went there, was looking for a job. Just told my mother that there's no job. But today in Ghana, we have things like godfathers at work. People bring their nephews and their sisters and things. So you are talking about whether we made some money. No, it was not that. People join the military with pride. Not because they want to make money, you know, but they just want to serve their country. And my father and most of the soldiers that I know I have seen had the same sense of responsibility and love for Ghana.
Okay. You just stated that every coup or any coup that takes over, there is always a political party or personnel behind it. You also witnessed the takeover of Liman on 31st December.
Yeah.
At this point, who was behind it?
That's why I told you first that I will have to have another interview again, because this time we are in a political era now, and I don't want to put names over there, you know, to create controversy.
The reason why I'm asking this question is Martin. The reason why I'm asking is he took over. There was a cleanup exercise. There was a general election. The man was installed as president of the republic, and there was another takeover.
Yes. I'll tell you about the takeover. You see, when a gentleman handed over, this has never happened in any country. The military takes over the country 3 months. It has never happened anywhere in this world. I'm yet to see a country, or I'm yet to see a group of people that take over the nation and then quickly have an election within 3 months. It means that we can have an election in Ghana within 3 months. And then you hand it over. quietly. And then he went to his place, quietly in his house. But the question was that they had detailed people to be monitoring the gentleman. So let's ask ourselves. I was once a head of state. I've handed over. I'm at home at peace. Then all of a sudden, people are tripping over my wall, watching everything that I do, monitoring me, my wife, my kids. When the chance comes, I have to come back. Because it looks like you guys want to give my freedom. You know what I'm saying? Let's be very realistic in this matter. You know, if you were rolling shoes, what would you have done? You know? Yeah.
Is it just because he tasted power and he wanted more of it?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Because he himself, I was listening to his interview. It wasn't Kwesi Pratt. It was Sechedu asked him. So when you got the power, what did you want to do with it? He said he didn't know. Rawlings himself said that. He said he didn't even know what he was going to use the power for. So, it was not his thing. But you see, when the unction is upon you, whenever the Spirit will come and get into you to do the thing, you will do it. You know. Yeah, so that is it. Just as Achampo, the Spirit came upon Achampo, he did what he did. Just as Kutuka too, he did what he did. Just as Frifa also did what he did. So that's the thing. You know. It was a kind of a dispensation where who was at this rampage? Who making was at this rampage? You know. And then Kwame Nkrumah has been overthrown, and you know, the imbalances in the nation, blah blah blah, etc. So, you know, yeah.
You are a member of AFCA, a Sojaba movement.
Yeah.
Now the